Welcome back to the segment Bold Predictions. It is the segment on my channel where I try to make predictions and guess upcoming NFL scores and the games of the NFL season. I've done it a few times already, and last week I meant to upload my week 3 bold predictions, and that did not happen due to just being busy and kind of other stuff getting in the way of that. But we're going to incorporate last week's predictions with this week's predictions just to kind of a mesh up of it all in one. I'm really excited. I'll have to show you my predictions that I made last week and even week 2. See which games I got right, see which games I got right again last week, and look at what my predictions are for week 4. You can catch episodes of bold predictions most every Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on the upload schedule. I try to have these posted at least by Thursday in time before Thursday night football when the week officially kicks off. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. We're going to start off with week 2 here. I'm going to show you my week 2 predictions, and then we'll kind of go from week 3 to week 4. So, as you can see here, I have my sheet of predictions on not Doodle Doc, Word Doc. I feel like having visuals helps you better see what I'm talking about. And I can also give you rundowns of what I chose and how I chose these predictions. So from week 2, my record was 11-5. Week 1, we went 10-6. Week 2, 11-5. So I got one game better, right? I will say the one that I do regret, I think the most, is the Falcons versus Vikings. I picked the Vikings to win in week 1 on Monday Night Football against the Bears. Got that right. And then they got absolutely demolished by the Atlanta Falcons in week 2. So I do regret choosing them. Other than that, I tried to pick teams that I thought would win. I didn't really try to go for any upsets aside from, I don't know, maybe the Bengals. No, I don't really think there was any much upsets unless you count the Chargers versus Raiders. But even then, the Chargers are off to a really good start. Anyways, that was week 2. Week 3 predictions. I don't think I made them at all, but I'll go through it. For Thursday night football, it was the Dolphins versus Bills. I did choose the Bills to win because I don't believe in the Dolphins much at all at this point. Bengals versus Vikings. I went with the Vikings here because even though they're without JJ McCarthy for about a few for at least 2 weeks, I believe. I also know that the Bengals are without Joe Burrow, and I didn't know what they would look like. And I'm glad I picked the Vikings to win. Texans versus Jaguars. I picked the Texans. I didn't think the Jaguars would have what it takes to beat the Texans based on what I have personally seen. But the Jaguars pulled off the win, and the Texans are not off to a good start to the season right now. Colts versus Titans. I picked the Colts, obviously. Their Colts are doing really, really well. So I'm surprised there too. Raiders versus Commanders. Picked the Commanders. Rams versus Eagles. I did choose the Eagles because I do believe that they are a very, very good football team. For a while, it looked like the Rams would pull off the massive upset against them, but the Eagles rallied back late in the fourth quarter and got that win. Falcons versus Panthers. I said I was never going to pick the Panthers ever again to win. And this time for week 3, I said, you know what? I'm just going to pick them and see what happens because I'm going to have to choose them at some point down the line. And why not just go for an upset? And besides, they are my favorite team. So I just wanted to see them win one game. And lo and behold, they beat the Falcons 30-0. I don't know what that says about the Falcons or the Panthers. Steelers versus Patriots. I did pick the Steelers here. Packers versus Browns. I went with the Packers. That's another game I feel like should have gone into a different direction. If Jordan Love does not throw that interception late in the fourth quarter, I believe the Packers would have easily have won that game. Jets versus Bucks. I did go with the Buccaneers. Broncos versus Chargers. I picked the Chargers. And again, one game that could have been completely steered in a different direction. had the Broncos not have had a field goal blocked, I believe. And then the Chargers also hitting their game winning field goal for them. I feel bad for the Broncos losing 2 straight weeks on game winning field goals. Obviously sucks, but they had multiple opportunities to win both of their games and just couldn't hold on to it. Saints versus Seahawks, the win with the Seahawks. Cowboys versus Bears. This was a game that I had absolute confidence in the Cowboys winning. I know that they had a rocky start against the Giants, but they held their own against the Eagles. The Cowboys, the defense for the Cowboys looked awful. Players not being in the right spot, just getting absolutely demolished by the Bears' run game. I think getting beat on the run game the first 3 games of the season from them. And overall, they look confused. I do believe that they have a pretty decent offense, right? I don't know what CeeDee Lamb's injury is like. George Pickens should have caught one of Dak's passes that was turned into an interception. The run game for the Cowboys is looking promising right now, but Brandon Aubrey has been their saving grace for the past 2 games. And if he doesn't kick and make field goals, then the Cowboys could have been absolutely just blown out. So they have stuff to work on, obviously. And the upcoming week, too, we're going to talk about that as well regarding the Cowboys. Cardinals versus 49ers. I picked the 49ers. I liked what Mac Jones brought to the table last week in week 2 when he filled in for an injured Brock Purdy. And this week, the 49ers have stayed in the game. It was a very close game, a very tight game for much of the first 3.5 quarters. But Eddie Pinheiro was their savior, making the game-winning field goal as time expired. Chiefs versus Giants. Both teams were 0-2. I just couldn't see any scenario where the Chiefs would lose to the Giants. But the Giants did hold their own for parts of that game as well. I'd say the first half, they definitely held their own against them. But I did go with the Chiefs. And then Monday Night Football, Lions versus Ravens. I went with the Ravens. I love Lamar Jackson. I like the Ravens offense, defense also. But Derrick Henry's 2 fumbles did cost them the game. Lamar got sacked 6 times, I believe. So the Ravens offensive line was not good at protecting their quarterback. But I believe the Ravens lost 38-30 on Monday Night Football. So for my overall record, however, here, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games right. 12, and I think 1, 2, 4 games wrong. So I got a better record in week 3. So we're improving. 10-6, 11-5, 12-4. Not bad. Let's see what week 4 has to bring. And I believe that week 4 is also kind of similar to week 3. I'm not necessarily looking for upsets per se. I'm looking for which teams are holding their own, which teams are confident in their playing abilities, which coaches are confident in their ability to coach, and most importantly, which teams are playing well together as a unit. So not just the offense holding their weight, not just the defense holding their weight, which teams are all contributing and having success on and off the field. That's what I was really looking for in week 4 when making these predictions. So to start off, on Thursday Night Football, we have the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. I went with the Seahawks here. I know the Cardinals just came off of a close loss to the 49ers. I know the Seahawks also had a pretty good win against the Saints, or a pretty large win against the Saints. I'm going with the Seahawks, however, just because I like what Sam Darnold is doing for the Seahawks. I do believe the Cardinals can absolutely hang in there, but when you give up a game-winning field goal, when you had ample opportunity to seal the game, I don't I don't know. I don't think the Seahawks defense will be as, lenient and as forgiving as the 49ers defense was in certain areas of that game. So that's why I am going with the Seattle Seahawks. Next up, we have the Vikings versus the Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers. I know that the Vikings had a pretty bad loss to the Bengals, and the Steelers are off to a good start. I believe they are 2-1 now, if I remember correctly. I'm going with the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers is doing good things for them, and I like to see that. And obviously, when you have a veteran quarterback for them and with the Steelers, I know I forget who the Vikings backup quarterback is, and if I can remember, I should know this. I would say Carson Wentz, but I believe he's another backup for a different team. But it could be Carson Wentz. I'm not quite sure, so fact check me there. All I know is that I feel good about the Steelers here playing at home too. Should give them home field advantage. So that's why I'm going with them. Commanders versus Falcons. I'm going with the Commanders. I know that the Falcons can be a good team. I believe they have been a good team in the past. But when you lose 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers, who have shown that they are not a good football team, and going up against a team who made it decently far in the playoffs last year, I have no choice but to go with the Washington Commanders here. Chargers versus Giants. I'm going with the Chargers. They are 3-0, undefeated to start their season. Justin Herbert is playing some really, really good football. If he keeps it up, I believe there is a chance that he could be in that MVP conversation, even though it's still very early into the season. But he's showing that he's improved. The Chargers offense is playing well together. When you beat the Chiefs in week 1 overseas, that is a massive win and a really good win, especially when you can beat teams in your not just your division, but also kind of your conference. They have the American Football Conference and then the National Football Conference, AFC, NFC, all that shabam. But beating the Chiefs is a huge deal. I think every team's goal is to beat the Chiefs at some point, or if not them, to beat the reigning Super Bowl champ, the Philadelphia Eagles. But I am going with the Chargers. Like I mentioned earlier, I like the way they're playing. I don't know if the Giants coming off of a loss to the Chiefs where they played good. Don't get me wrong. I think they did play good, but they didn't look unified together. And that's what I'm seeing more from the Chargers at this stage of week 4, at least. Titans versus Texans. I'm going with the Texans here. I know they're 0-3. I believe the Titans are also 0-3, but I CJ Stroud is having a bit of a not necessarily a down year, but he looks kind of tight. He doesn't look confident. And I would love to see him look more confident on the field. I would love to see the Texans get a win and play better as a team. With the Titans, on the other hand, I don't know what much you can do to kind of change what's not working. But and I have more faith that the Texans will figure their stuff out faster than the Titans will figure their things out. So that's why I'm going with the Texans. Eagles versus Bucks. Now, I am going with the Buccaneers here. I know that the Eagles are undefeated. I know that they are reigning Super Bowl champions. I get that. I needed to pick an upset, however, and my upset is the Buccaneers because the Eagles were down at 14. The Eagles were down by 24 points at one point to the LA Rams. It was either 24 or they were down at least 14 points. I don't being able to come back from that big of a deficit. I believe the Rams even got it down to had a lead as high up as 20 points at some point. That is when you have a 20-point deficit, that is hard to come back from. The Rams are a very great team, don't get me wrong there. I love the Rams with my whole heart, but I don't know if you can allow that much of a I don't know if you can allow a deficit that big again and work to overcome that. With the Buccaneers, I am liking Baker Mayfield this season. He is he has been a good quarterback in the past. And with the Buccaneers, he's really been getting his opportunity to showcase what he is capable of. So that's I'm just going with the butt for the upset. But also, I do think that they are capable of beating the Philadelphia Eagles if you can maintain a lead and keep that lead and have opportunities to go after the quarterback, go attack their running game, and slow them down. I think that's the key for the Bucks to be able to do in order to win. So we'll see what happens there. Panthers versus Patriots. I'm going Patriots here. I know the Panthers are just coming off of a win, but I don't know if they can keep that momentum going into week 4. If they're able to win back to back games at some point down the line, then I might feel a little bit more comfortable picking them in my predictions, but they have to show me that they have earned that. I love them beating the Falcons. I love that they looked full of life for the first time in a long time. I don't know if I should really say that, but I'm going Patriots here. I feel a bit more confident, I guess. I also feel like the Patriots do have a slight edge over the Panthers in terms of teams that they have played and victories that they have gotten thus far. Saints versus Bills. I'm going Bills. They're they are at one of the best teams in the NFL right now, without a doubt. Top 2 teams at least. And you can make an argument for 1 or 2. I'm going with the Bills. Again, playing at home. They pride themselves in being Bill Mafia. They have beaten the Ravens already this season. They had a good win against the Dolphins. I don't know if I should say that was a good win because the Dolphins did have opportunities to win and kind of blew that as well. But it's the Bills. I have no choice but to pick the Bills. Browns versus Lions. Now, the Lions just came off of a pretty good win against the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns also came off of a pretty good win against the Green Bay Packers. So both teams are coming off of wins here. I'm going with the Browns, however. I like the Browns defense better than the Lions defense, even though the Lions defense did force Derrick Henry to turn the ball over 2 times with 2 fumbles, even though the Lions defense did sack Lamar Jackson 6 times. I I feel like the Browns defense is going to be a test for the Lions offense, however. And I don't know how Jared Goff is going to handle that pressure and what is on the other side of the ball with Myles Garrett. So that's why I'm going with the Browns. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think the Browns get this win by, I'm going to say by 6. I think it's going to be a close game, but my instincts are telling me that the Browns defense is going to come prepared and ready to stop the Lions offense. I don't know if the Lions defense is going to be able to hold up against the Browns offense. It could, but my picture here is defense. What defense do I think is going to win this game? And I think the Browns defense is going to win that game for them. Jaguars versus 49ers. I'm going with the 49ers here again. I know they're also undefeated, but I believe Brock Purdy should be back for week 4, getting his start again. Nick Bosa is officially out for the season with the torn ACL. I know the 49ers have already been injury played, so that's not really good news for them. But I think they're going to find ways to win. They found a way to win against the Cardinals. They found a way to win in week 2 with Mac Jones. They found a way to win against the Seattle Seahawks. So they're finding ways to win, right? I loved how Mac Jones stepped up for that team. He's proven to be a very good QB2 as a backup role. And that shouldn't take away from what he did as a starter. He was a good starter. He just didn't have, opportunities and the ability to kind of grow and develop as a young quarterback. And I believe he's gained that opportunity right now in the Bay Area. I'm just going with the 49ers for offense. Defensively, with Nick Bosa being out, they might have to get creative with solutions to replace him or grab somebody from free agency or willing to make a trade up for that. But offensively, you're getting Brock back. You still have Christian McCaffrey. You have Ricky Pearsall, who's proving that he is a good option at the wide receiver. You're going to get George Kittle back at some point. You'll get Jawan Jennings back at some point too. So these players are coming back, with the exception of the ones with season-ending injuries. So we'll see. Colts versus Rams. I know it's easy not to pick the Rams after the lead that they gave up to the Philadelphia Eagles, but I am going with them. Like I mentioned earlier, I think they are a really good football team. They are a playoff worthy team at the moment with Matthew Stafford, with Puka Nacua, with all the elements that they have. It's just not letting your lead dwindle down. It's maintaining that lead and taking advantage of the opportunities that you have with your lead. And that just didn't happen for them against the Philadelphia Eagles. I also like Matthew Stafford over not Sam Darnold. I also like Matthew Stafford over Daniel Jones at this moment, even though Daniel Jones is having a breakout year with the Colts. I'm really surprised at that, but it's they're two veteran quarterbacks. One quarterback is a Super Bowl champion. The other quarterback hasn't seen a playoff in quite a while. So that's why I'm going with the Rams here. I think they are going to settle down. Not settle down is not the right word. I think they're going to look at their loss against the Eagles, fix what needs to be fixed, and just get a lead early and hold on to that lead. That's all they need to do. And to win the game, they just need to take advantage of those opportunities, score points, slow the defense down. Bears versus Raiders. I'm going with the Raiders here. I don't know if that's a great choice on my end. I know the Bears just beat the Dallas Cowboys, but they also lost to the Minnesota Vikings. It was a 50-50 game, and I just went with the Raiders here. Then we have the Ravens versus the Chiefs here. Should be a really good game. I'm going with the Chiefs, and I'm going with the Chiefs by a field goal. I don't know. Everyone says, oh, the Chiefs fixed their problems with their win against the Giants. I don't know if they necessarily fixed anything aside from making adjustments in the second half. But that first half, they looked lost. They looked confused. The Giants defense was able to rattle a veteran Kansas City team that has Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on their offense. They didn't fix the problems, they just found solutions for their problems. They need to fix the problems. They need to look at the picture here, figure out what's missing, get the quarterback and his tight ends, his wide receivers, even his running backs back on the same page where they both have the same agenda, who he's supposed to be throwing the ball to and whoever, and play as a unit. That's what the Chiefs really need to do. On the other side, what the Ravens really need to do is not give up leads. Hold on to those leads, just like with the Rams. Lamar Jackson had all the opportunity in the world to beat the Buffalo Bills. And what happened was that they gave up their lead. They allowed the Bills to score 15 points in the fourth quarter and end the game on a game-winning field goal. With the Lions, they had opportunities to tie the game, and two critical fumbles by Derrick Henry cost them that opportunity. So it's not turning the ball over is one thing that the Ravens need to work on, but also protecting their quarterback. A quarterback should never be sacked 6 times in a game. That's bad. That's a bad offensive line that obviously needs some work. And if you're giving up 6 sacks against the Giants, not the Giants, but if you're giving up 6 sacks against the Lions defense, I don't know if you can give up 6 sacks against a Chiefs defense or an Eagles defense or like a Rams defense and be able to say, or like even a Browns defense, and be able to say, we're going to win this football game, even if our quarterback gets sacked 5+ times. You're never going to win a football game if your quarterback is sacked 5 or more times. That's just the reality of football, and that's the reality of the NFL today. We're seeing more quarterbacks get tackled. We're seeing more sacks. We're also seeing a bit of the evolution of defensive backs and defensive ends in the NFL, bigger guys who are able to hold their weight. And you're also seeing quarterbacks be more mobile these days. You just can't allow your quarterback to take a big hit for a loss of yards, especially against a really good football team. So I'm going with the Chiefs here because I do think that they are going to find solutions for their problems. Are they going to fix their problems? That has yet to be seen, that has yet to be watched, but I just feel confident with the Chiefs. Sunday Night Football, Packers versus Cowboys. I'm going with the Packers due to the fact that the Cowboys defense is not going to win them many games. Monday Night Football is a doubleheader. Monday Night Football is a doubleheader. Sorry, I had to close my door here for sound purposes. Monday Night Football is a doubleheader. It's Jets versus Dolphins and Bengals versus Broncos. I'm going with the Dolphins. I know they're winless, but they're going to get a win at some point in the season. I don't think Mike McDaniel's that bad of a football coach to allow his team to be 0-4 and say, we're good with that. We're fine with that. That's not fine. And right now, they are not looking like a playoff team either, just like the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm going with the Dolphins here. If Tua can just limit the turnovers in the red zone, then the Dolphins have a fighting chance of winning. That's the only thing. If Tua made smarter choices where he's throwing the ball and get out of the pocket and be able to make big plays with his arm, which we've seen already, he just needs to be more cautious with the football there. So that's why I'm going with the Dolphins. But back to Sunday Night Football here against the Packers versus Cowboys. Jordan Love made a big mistake throwing the ball right to an open defender. He's not a rookie. He is a fourth year quarterback in the NFL, maybe a fifth year quarterback in the NFL. He should know that you can absolutely not do that in a big moment like that. There's no denying that. I know what we saw there was just a rookie mistake for what we say for rookies, but it was also just what are you doing kind of moment. Hopefully he knows that he if you do that, you're going to lose the football game 9 out of 10 times. I don't know what was going on with his mind there. He looked like the first or the second year Jordan Love, who was throwing interceptions late in the fourth quarter and turning the ball over. He has gotten better. I think last year was his peak of what we saw from him, being more cautious with the football, making cautious throws and not being too overly eager to get the ball off right away. The Cowboys are a different story. And unlike the offensive struggles with the Packers and their quarterback, what the Cowboys really struggle with at the moment is defense. Defense has been a problem for this team in the past. Offense has also been a struggle in the past, but the moral of the story has always been the Dallas defense in the playoffs, especially. I will never be able to fathom how you let your best defensive player go to another NFC team. This is also the Micah Parsons homecoming when the Cowboys traded him to the Packers. So now he's coming back to Dallas, and you best believe that he's going to want to prove something to them. He's going to want to make his mark and make the Cowboys regret trading him. No, I have no doubt about that. I would not be shocked if that happened. The Cowboys don't have a replacement guy for him. Obviously, they got Kenny Clark in the trade up, but Kenny Clark's not doing much. Even one of the best safeties for their team, Trayvon Diggs, looks like he's been regressing. He does not look like the Trayvon Diggs that we saw in 2022 and 2023, or even 2021. He's not that guy. When I watch the Cowboys play the Bears and I watch their defense very closely, Diggs was getting beat by these wide receivers. He was not running the right routes. He looked lost. All the Cowboys defense looked lost. Their rush defense was absolutely terrible. When the opposing team runs the ball at you 11 times, and all 11 times you're not able to stop the run and just allow them to keep running the ball, there's an issue there that needs to be fixed. So Matt Uberflus, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, needs to go to the drawing board again, figure out what's missing or what's going wrong, and find solutions so that that defense can get better on every side of the field, whether it be his defensive ends, his defensive tackles, his safeties, his cornerbacks, wherever. With the Cowboys offense, they have a good offense. Dak is looking a lot better than he did last year, which isn't really saying a lot considering he missed the majority of the season with his season-ending injury. CeeDee Lamb's going to be out for I don't know how long. George Pickens, he should have had that ball. That's first interception was not his fault. George Pickens absolutely just lost control of it when he should have had control of it and just ended up in the other player's hand. No question about it. So the Cowboys offense is playing better. I do believe that Dak can lead that offense to the playoffs. I don't think the defense can lead them to the playoffs. And obviously, you know how I feel about their special teams. The special teams looks like the best team. The Cowboys special team looks like the most polished and the most poised out of anything on the Cowboys field, which is not something that you should ever say about your team. When you say that the Cowboys, when you say the special teams is playing the best football for your team, it should either be the whole team is playing well, and that's why we're winning. So enough about my rant there. I'm going with the Packers because it's I don't think I don't think the Cowboys defense is going to be able to stop the Packers offense. And that's my reasoning for that. And then finally, again, Monday Night Football, it's Bengals versus Broncos. I'm picking the Broncos here with the Bengals blowout loss last week and the Broncos close loss last week. I do think the Broncos have had opportunities taken away from them, and they have not just been able to hold on to those opportunities. So if they can hold on to a lead again, if they can just make some defensive stops on the other side of the ball, if Bo Nix keeps playing the type of football that he's been playing, and again, limit turnovers and make smart decisions, the Broncos absolutely win this football game. So that's why I'm going with the Denver Broncos for Monday Night Football. And those are my bold predictions for week 4 We'll revisit these predictions next week and then go on to our week 5 predictions here. As always, you can check out both predictions on YouTube, and then I have main episodes as well on the YouTube channel and on Spotify. I also do like to do other segments on my channel as well. So if you find something that you like, you can click on that. But for now, that's it for bold predictions, and I'll see you back next week.